Ric Flair is without a doubt one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. From 60-minute classics to iconic promos and feuds, this man did it all in wrestling. When older fans think of Ric Flair, they think of his classics with Steamboat, his feud with Dusty, the legendary Four Horsemen. They think of the 16-time world champion. They think of all the moments that made Ric Flair the man. But all those moments took place before I ever watched a second of wrestling. All the title reigns, all the epic turns, those all took place before I was even born. See, the Ric Flair that I grew up with was a maniac. The Ric Flair that I grew up with was a 56-year-old man running around past his prime, but somehow was the most entertaining guy in wrestling. He was out here wooing, dying, screaming, bleeding, taking bumps that he should have not been taking. He was so red that it looked like his blood pressure was about to kill him. But most importantly, the Ric Flair that I grew up on was the Deathmatch King. When Flair returned to the company in November of 01, from the very first moment you saw him, you just knew that this old man was ready to go. He came back alive and well, and before you knew it, he was already bleeding on Monday Night Raw. But when I think of Flair, I don't think of 02, I don't think of 03, I don't think of 04, nah, I think of a certain 10-month period where this old man truly lost his fucking mind. I think of the 10-month period from late 05 to mid 06, where this man did the most random and the craziest shit that a 56-year-old man should never do. This man took so much punishment, popped so many vessels, participated in the craziest matches, and bled so much in that time span, he could have funded an entire blood drive by himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you the Ric Flair that I grew up on. I present to you the most insane 10 months a senior citizen has ever had in a wrestling ring. I bring you Ric Flair at his best. And it all began with the Triple H feud in October of 05. Let's get into it. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was Raw Homecoming. It was a special episode, 3 hours back when you actually wanted 3 hours of wrestling, and Triple H was making his return to the company after being away since June. And after all those months away, he was teaming up with his best friend Ric Flair. The two won the match and did their thing against Carlito and Masters, and everything was good. Until it wasn't. Triple H turned on Flair, and with Jim Ross screaming, Triple H hit grabs the sledgehammer to the dome after their match, and to say that this got violent would be an understatement. Triple H massacred Ric Flair. It looked like a cartel execution. I was 7 years old at the time, and watching this, I was so damn uncomfortable. It felt like I was watching my grandpa get killed in front of me, my 56-year-old alcoholic perverted grandpa. He was bleeding all over the place, crying, begging, and all you heard was, "Ah God, ah God." And just to make it worse, Triple H beat his ass in front of all these legends in the front row, and they just sat there. Triple H assassinated Ric Flair. Low-key traumatized 7-year-old me, because to me, I had never seen Triple H without Flair at this point in my life. All I knew was Triple H and Ric Flair were together, and now he had just killed him. Dog, this shit was so disrespectful. Raw went to commercial, came back, and all you still heard was, "Ah God, ah God." Trips was still beating his ass after the break. He ended up sending him to the hospital in a limo, cause why not, it's Ric Flair, and Flair left Raw Homecoming barely breathing. After 4 long years, Triple H had finally turned on Flair. After everything they had been through, after being by Triple H's side as he buried the Raw roster, the friendship was over. But it was all good, because it was this moment that kickstarted Ric Flair's generational run. 2 weeks later on Raw, Ric Flair was back. He was alive somehow, bandage on his head, suit on, looking quite dapper I must say. Flair was back, and at first it seemed like just a normal promo. He was telling the world how he was not washed, he was not afraid of Triple H, and that Triple H will not end his career. But remember, there are no such things as a normal Ric Flair promo. Flair, after yelling how he's 20 years older than Triple H, but it doesn't matter, takes his coat off and drops an elbow on it. Senile old man loves doing elbows on his coat, nothing we haven't seen before. But then you started noticing something. You see that despite nobody touching him, despite him not even touching himself at this point, blood starts to leak from his bandage. Somehow he dropped an elbow and his head started bleeding. He starts talking about the plane crash he survived in the 70s and how that couldn't even kill him. And then you see that the blood though keeps dripping and his face is getting more red. And then Grandpa just loses it. He takes the band-aid off and just starts punching himself like, ha, 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 ha. I gotta look at this every day, just slap, slap, slap. He's hitting himself in the head like a Neanderthal, and next thing you know, he's pouring hot. Mind you, this is a one-man promo, nobody has touched him. Why is there a senior citizen in the ring bleeding? I just took the stitches out an hour ago. Why would you do that, my good sir? Yo, it's bad. He's out here looking like Two-Face, half of his face is covered, and then to solve that problem, he spreads it around like strawberry jam. It looks like he's using his own blood as sunscreen, and the best part is, the crowd is just quiet. There's no woos, there's no cheers, everyone is just like, what the fuck are we watching? Honey, get the kids. It's on his shirt, it's everywhere. Grandpa has lost it. There's literally a guy in the front row with toilet paper who's trying to give it to Flair. Triple H comes out and Flair goes under the ring and grabs a baseball bat, and I swear to God, when I first saw this, now, I thought he was gonna hit himself with a baseball bat. But nah, he chases Triple H backstage looking like a maniac. Trips is running for his life, can you really blame him? And the segment ends with Flair asking,
"Why don't you run from me?"
Jeez, Nate, I wonder why. Ladies and gentlemen, Ric Flair had officially lost it. This all led to Triple H versus Ric Flair in a steel cage match at Taboo Tuesday, and this match to me is just, it's so fascinating. When I tell you that Ric Flair was busted open literally 4 minutes into the match, I am not joking whatsoever. I love how before the match starts, he's smiling, he's amped, and just, all excited. Just 4 minutes later, God, he was already bleeding. If that's not a record, I don't know what is. These two wrestled, if you want to call it that, for 18 minutes. For 15 of them, we saw Ric Flair die. Flair took so much punishment in this match, yet every time he would just get up and fight. Triple H legit ran out of shit to do to this man, but the crackhead just did not give up. Despite getting beat by a chain, despite looking like his soul left his body, God knows what Flair drank before this match, but Flair had the figure four, he jumped off the top rope, most importantly, he grabbed some testes, and at the end, it was these chair shots, these cracked out chair shots, looking like a zombie on PCP, running around, and bang, he nails Triple H over and over. And after 18 long minutes, I don't even know how he's able to stand. First of all, my father is the same age as Flair was at this time, and that guy needs a 3-hour nap after mowing the lawn. But Gramps over here, against all odds, after almost bleeding out, comes back and gets the win in a great match. So Flair wins the bloody affair, right? He did his thing. You would assume that after this, it would be time to chill out, right? Go home, take care of your kids, take care of your wife before she divorces you again. Nope, no, I'm the nature boy. They ran it back 2 weeks later at Survivor Series 2005 because a steel cage match wasn't enough. It was time to run a last man standing match. Ric Flair at 56 years old for the love of the game, just to pay his bills and his alimony, and honestly, probably just to feel something, tweaked. Genuinely tweaked at Survivor Series 05. I don't know what they fed him before this, what he drank. I don't know if they shot him up with horse steroids or what, but in this match that went on for 26 minutes, there were at least 12 instances where it looked like he was genuinely dead. Suplexes on the floor, getting assaulted with a screwdriver. This man should be collecting his pension, not getting a flathead into the forehead. You see Flair just stumbling around. He probably thought he was in a bar in Tampa. Spine buster on the floor, everything you can imagine. At this point, you just gotta assume Triple H gets turned on by abusing old men. But just like usual, when in doubt, Ric Flair just grabs it out. Ric Flair just can't die. It really made no sense because it was beyond him participating in the matches, right? This crazy bastard would always get up, always hit the cue, never botch really. I can't think of one Ric Flair botch from this era, and every time just have a solid to great match. Flair pulls out all the stops, anything you can imagine he does. His reversal timing was on point, his whole body might have been red, but the instincts were still there. And the most insane part about all this is so he takes one pedigree, right? Boom, gets nailed, he's out, it's a wrap. Many wrestlers from this era had fallen victim to the pedigree at this point, but not Ric Flair. He gets up. Okay, so Triple H hits him with another one. You would assume that Gramps would be dead, right? Nah, this is Ric Flair. He cannot. I am convinced that Ric Flair would have survived Hiroshima. Ric Flair gets up from a second pedigree, flips off Triple H, Trips hits him with another one, and he still gets up. He's like that one crawly zombie from BO1 that just won't die. What the fuck? He gets headshotted. Triple H gets 500 XP. And finally, after 26 minutes, after surviving 3 pedigrees, chair shots, screwdrivers, nuclear attacks, predator missiles, AC-130, Ric Flair finally lost. Yo, after all that, Triple H might have won officially, but fam, the Nature Boy was the true winner. Flair, like I said at this point, was 56 years old, and in a 1-month span, he bled more than the average person bleeds in their entire lifetime. He's had aneurysms, survived war crimes, beat Triple H, he did his thing, and once again, you would assume at this point, it's time for a break, right? Flair, please go back to your normal matches, maybe start thinking about retirement, get it out of your system, maybe it's time for you to finally calm down. No, it's 2006, it's January, it's Monday Night Raw, Ric Flair is losing his mind, and we're getting Ric Flair versus Edge for the WWE Championship in a TLC match. And I'm gonna say the same shit I said as a 7-year-old. Why the f is Ric Flair in a TLC match? I love wrestling. I love wrestling so much. I love Ric Flair. Ric Flair started wrestling in the 1970s. Fun fact, back in the 70s in a lot of wrestling companies, in the NWA particularly, it was illegal to, quote, throw your opponent over the top rope. That was the world that Ric Flair started wrestling in. In 2006, look at the state of this man. This TLC match is one of my fondest memories as a kid. I will never forget watching this after school and just being in shock at what the hell was going down in front of me. Ric Flair in North Carolina, 56 years old, against my biggest op, somehow still had blood to give to this industry, and all you see is just him dying. Ladders being thrown at him, chairs. His daughter is in the front row crying and screaming. Did I mention he was 56 years old and not a modern 56, fueled by stem cells? No, this was a 56-year-old man built on alcohol. There was no DDP yoga back in the day. Half of his contemporaries at this point were dying weekly. Meanwhile, he was having a TLC match on Raw. To this day, the most insane main event I've ever seen for Raw. Edge jumped off a ladder, put Flair through a table, Charlotte was crying. You would think when Flair was born in the 1940s, his parents thought that, oh, one day my son's gonna be a professional wrestler and have this done to him. And just when you think things couldn't get crazier, just when enough damage hadn't been done, Edge superplexes Ric Flair off the top of the ladder. Breaks his back. I don't know why Flair felt the need to do this. I will never know why. The match would have been the same without him doing this. But guys, this is Ric Flair. This is what made Ric Flair the GOAT. He truly just did not care. And you know what? It's fine. Thank you, Flair. I thank you for this moment. There goes my hero. And with all his might, he sends Edge flying. He puts Lita in a figure four. Because why not, right? Winning the title, he's out here to do this. And like I said, one of the best Raw main events ever, just because of the absurdity of it. Flair, Flair, Flair. I used to watch this match a lot as a kid because I had tapes on VHS, and something that's always been ingrained in my brain is after the match, Edge tries attacking him more to really put his lights out, and Cena actually comes out and saves the day. But the visual of Cena standing over Flair with a chair trying to protect him, it always just makes me laugh because just look at Flair. I swear to you, he's not breathing. He doesn't even move an inch while Cena is above him. He doesn't even twitch, and Cena's all like, rah, and it's like, bro, can you please check if he's still breathing? But surely Ric Flair was breathing because once again, Flair can't die. And in 2006, let's just say they definitely tested that theory. It was then WrestleMania season. The year before WrestleMania 21, there were rumors that The Rock wanted to verse Ric Flair at the big show. So when it came to 06, it was like, Flair can still go, clearly. He can still bleed, clearly. Who could Flair possibly take on at WrestleMania and have a great WrestleMania moment with? Flair, we need you to sacrifice again, pal. Ladies and gentlemen, it's WrestleMania 22, it's big time, it's Chicago, it's an amazing show, and Ric Flair is in the Money in the Bank ladder match, cause why not? If this isn't the definition of just doing side quests, I don't know what is. Ric Flair, at 57 years old, was in a 6-man ladder match at WrestleMania. Ric Flair, in his 30-year career, never participated in a ladder match. And then 2006 came and now he's been in 2 of them. Quote, when we did our Money in the Bank ladder match together, Ric Flair pulled me aside and said, look, I want to take a big bump off this ladder. You're the only person I trust to give me a suplex off the top. I know you got experience and you're good. Matt Hardy. Flair got his WrestleMania moment, alright, trust me, middle of the ring, 20,000 people cheering, and boom, Ric Flair breaks his back again. 31 years later, after the plane crash he survived, he felt the same impact on this one more time. God, referees throw up the X, he gets carried away, fans chant Flair, 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 and it's like, brother, TLC match, ladder match, cage match, last man standing match, bleeding during promos. Just when you thought this old man couldn't get crazier, he found a way, and especially on the biggest stage of them all. But wait, he wasn't done. I told you Ric Flair cannot die. Ric Flair could survive lethal injection at this point. Just 5 minutes later, he stumbles out. God knows what he took in the back to be numb. He starts chopping, he starts punching. He probably didn't even know where he probably thought he was at Starrcade 86. And somehow the madman found himself alone in the ring. He climbs the ladder, he touches a briefcase, he can sense it, he can feel it, he can taste it, he can smell it. And for the love of the game, he dies again. Twice in one night. 57 years old, Ric Flair takes another ladder bump. Why, Rick? Why? His back now was definitely broken. And yo, this bump looked even worse than the suplex. Just free falling from the ladder like, Lord, take me now. Put him on a white tee, put him next to X. Yo, Mr. Flair, you wanted your WrestleMania moment? You got it. So at this point in a 6-month period, Ric Flair had an insane run. Old man running around doing every single extreme match you can imagine. He was doing matches that Little Me would have booked in SVR GM mode. He was out here earning his pay, doing his thing, and you would assume, there's that word again, assume that after a Money in the Bank match, he would be done, time to relax, time to breathe, time to chill. Ladies and gentlemen, you will not believe what other match he competed in just 2 months later. Ric Flair versus The Big Show for the ECW Championship in an Extreme Rules match live on ECW, because why the f not? Nothing. Boys and girls, nothing is more insane than the idea that on a random Tuesday, Ric Flair at 57 years old, I gotta keep mentioning it, walked into an ECW show and main evented it against The Big Show of all people in an Extreme Rules match. I don't know whose idea this was, how, what, where. Well, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know how this was even legal, but it was awesome. Ric Flair at the time was in a feud with Mick Foley, a feud based on real life beef, because a few years prior to this, Flair released a book, and in the book trash talked Foley and basically called him a bum. Well, they made it into a real life storyline, and these two would cut some insane promos. Ric Flair, as you would expect, would pull up to Raw and just lose his mind every single time. Mick Foley, you are a glorified stuntman. He would take his coat off, he would elbow the ring, all because he was tired of people worshiping Foley and his stunts. He was tired about hearing about how Foley was God. He even said that after he had that TLC match with Edge, the next day he woke up and said,
"Where's Mick Foley? That's you."
So because of that, because Foley left him a bloody mess at Vengeance 06, Flair wanted to prove to the world and to Foley that he could do what Foley does easily, that he wasn't scared of weapons, that he too could be extreme, which by the way, Rick, you've already proven that, buddy. There is no need for this. Your kids miss you at home. But apparently there was. So to prove that he could be extreme, he went to ECW, and here we were. It was Ric Flair in an Extreme Rules match on ECW. So the match starts and Ric Flair just gets destroyed. He gets thrown around, tossed around, we cut to break, we come back from break to the surprise of absolutely no one. Ric Flair, for probably the 10th time in the past 8 months, was bleeding again. At this point, Ric Flair was more guaranteed than a period. You know he was going to bleed every month. He was never missing it. He's busted wide open 3 minutes into the match. He's flopping, he's falling. It's Ric Flair, but just like usual, he cannot die. He fights back. He crawls, he scratches, he gets his back broken, but at this point, his back had been broken so many times, he probably didn't even feel anything. So for the most part, this looked like it was going to be a Big Show squash match. I mean, he did just win the title the week before. Of course, he was going to destroy that 57-year-old man. But nah, Ric Flair ain't no hoe. Ric Flair spams low blows. He out here spams them like Steph Curry in 2016 was spamming threes. Bang, bang, bang. And then this crackhead brings in a garbage can of fun. Next thing you know, Ric Flair has a barbed wire bat straight into Big Show's dome. Flair goes nuts. Show is cooked. There's barbed wire everywhere. Trash cans are being dented. Chair shots everywhere. Mind you, the crowd is loving it. And boys and girls, just when you thought you had seen it all, just when you thought it couldn't get any more crazier, it's Ric Flair. It's the mid-2000s. He's apparently the Deathmatch King. Flair pulls out the thumbtacks. Yes, yes, yes. Something that you never would have ever imagined in the 90s. There's thumbtacks all over the ring. Ric Flair brings them out. And what happens? What do you think happens? For the love of the game, Gramps does it again. He hits Show with the chair and sends him falling into the tacks. Listen, the greatest. Ric Flair is truly the GOAT. Now, does he win this match? No, of course he doesn't. He gets cooked, he gets destroyed, he gets bamboozled, he gets absolutely assaulted. Does he take a bump on the tacks at 57 years old? Of course he does. Does he roll all over them? Of course he does. Ric Flair in ECW hitting low blows, chair shots, head shots, thumbtacks, Flair, Flair, Flair. Listen, there might be guys who were technically better wrestlers than Flair, bigger draws, made more money, did this, did that, but yo, who has loved the game more than Ric Flair? It's like him and Foley, which is what makes their beef so funny, but they give so much to this industry. They give their bodies, they put over talent. Hey Nate, Big Show just became ECW champion. We need you to put him over so he can look lethal. Hey, no worries, put me on thumbtacks. This crackhead just loves wrestling, and this run right here just personified that. And well, there was only one way that this run of Flair being a Deathmatch King was going to end. SummerSlam 06, live from Boston, Mass, Foley versus Flair in an I Quit match. When I tell you that this is genuinely one of the most violent matches in WWE history, I'm not joking. Nobody ever talks about this match. This match is never brought up like that. Maybe it's because it was the 4th match on the show, non-title, only 13 minutes long, and it wasn't really a match that was promoted too much. But listen, what these two crackheads did in 13 minutes, It was wild. They genuinely went so much further than I remembered, more than anyone I think remembers, and at the end with the crowd being shook after speed running insanity in 13 minutes in the middle of a pay-per-view, Flair got the win and made the hardcore legends say I quit. Ladies and gentlemen, Ric Flair, the Deathmatch King. What a run, what a run. I don't know what possessed him, I don't know what was wrong with him. He was washed, he was old, whatever you want to call it. It didn't matter. For the love of the game, Flair just casually had the most insane 10-month period you can imagine. Put over so many guys, so many great extreme matches. Hey, Triple H just turned heel, we need him to really get over. I got you. Hey, we need Edge to, he just beat Cena, we need him to push him to the moon as a super heel. I got you. Flair, it's WrestleMania, we need somebody to die. I got you. Flair, it's ECW, nobody watches this shit. Big Show just became champion. How do we make him lethal? I got you. Who bleeds during a one-man promo? Took a ladder bump at WrestleMania. My bad, 2 of them. Beat Foley in an I Quit match for the love of the game. Listen, some of the older fans, when they think of Flair, they think of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Some younger fans than me might think of Ric Flair as the man who goes to bars in Tampa and planks. But for me, this is Ric Flair. I think of this. And jokes aside, to me this is greatness. I think of greatness. What he did in his prime itself is amazing. We know that. But this 2000s run, this old man run, especially this 10-month period from October 05 to August 06, I'm just glad I got to witness this growing up. I'm glad I got to watch Monday Night Raw, see Ric Flair just doing his thing, watch a pay-per-view, see Ric Flair dying, all for the love of the game. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Ric Flair, it was a nature boy in the 2000s, he was insane, and what a time it was to be alive.